Left click in the viewport to select an object, or alternatively select it in the hierarchy in the top right. Hit X to delete anything selected, and then left click to confirm on the pop-up window. To add a new mesh, go to the top left, add mesh, and select the mesh you want to add. Alternatively, use Shift A as a shortcut. To rotate the camera in the viewport, hold middle mouse button and rotate around. Alternatively, you can grab the gizmo in the top right and drag. To pan the camera around the scene, hold Shift, use middle mouse button again and move the mouse. Alternatively, you can grab the hand gizmo in the top right. If you ever find yourself lost in the scene, select numpad full stop and it will center the camera on the selected object. Hitting numpad 1, 3, 7 and 9 will lock the camera into orthographic views of the object from specific axes. This is useful for editing. You can also find the same views by selecting the axes in the gizmo in the top right. Hitting numpad 5 alternates between perspective view and orthographic view. Perspective view is a traditional view you'd see through a camera in real life, where depth is respected, and in orthographic view there is no depth and it can lead to some interesting artistic shots such as the one shown here. Hitting G will allow you to move an object. Right clicking while moving will reset it back to where it was before, and left clicking will lock it into the current position. Hitting Z will lock it to the Z axis, hitting X will lock the movement to the X axis, and hitting Y will lock the movement to the Y axis. This works for all three major transform tools. Secondly, we have scale. Hit S to scale. Originally it will move along all axes, however you can decide to lock in the specific axes the same way we did before by hitting Z, X or Y respectively. An easy way to select axes if you are not familiar with the buttons is to hold middle click while you're transforming an object, and a small white line will appear. If you point it towards the axis you wish to scale, rotate or transform along, it will allow you to lock into it when you let go of middle click. Finally, we have rotate. Hit R to rotate. Originally it will rotate based on your camera's perspective, however as before you can lock it into any of the three axes by hitting the respective buttons. Finally, if you have the Object Properties tab open on the right hand side, you can change the rotation, location and scale from here directly. All of these transformation tools we're using will be going around the object origin, which can be changed later on in edit mode. So far we've only been making basic changes to our mesh in object mode, however if you look in the top right we can switch between object and edit mode. In edit mode we have more fine-grained controls around the mesh and it will allow us to make changes. There are three main selection tools. The first is Vertice Selection Tool. This will allow you to select vertices or corners of the object and transform them as you wish. You can use G to move them and lock it onto specific axes as we did before. You can also scale and rotate. Secondly is Edge Select Tool, which will allow you to select any specific edge of the object. Finally, we have Face Select. This allows you to select specific faces of the object. Object mode allows you to have a variety of new tools at your disposal to edit the mesh, and one of the more important ones is Extrude. If we hit E to extrude, we'll be able to move a face, edge or vertice outwards and extend it along an axis. If we hit Ctrl R, this will allow us to create a loop cut around the object, which creates an edge we can edit from. If you scroll up, you can add more than one at once, and move your mouse around to select the location of the edge cut. This creates a new face which we can then extrude from. Another useful tool is Inset. If you hit I while selecting a face and then move the mouse, it will allow you to create a small border around a new face which we can then extrude inwards to create some more detail on the mesh. If we hit Tab, it's a shortcut that will send us from edit mode back to object mode, and we can see that this specific mesh is now a lot more detailed thanks to the editing we've done. On the right hand side we have a variety of tabs we can use to make more changes to the object. Modifiers are important and there's a lot to learn here. I'm going to select a basic array modifier just to show that we can create a fixed amount of our specific object duplicated in a row. The Material tab will allow us to color our object. If we create a new material and then give it a color in the Material Properties, we can see that it does not immediately change the color of the object. That's because we're in the wrong viewport shading mode. In the top right, if we select the Material Preview option, we can see that our object is pink. Solid mode is useful to have a performance scene when you have lots of shaders, and wireframe mode allows you to see through objects and see the mesh. Finally, Render Preview allows you to see your object with some basic lighting.